I am announcing that the Government of Canada, following a dollar-for-dollar approach, will be imposing, as of 12:01 a.m. tomorrow, March 13th, 2025, 25% reciprocal tariffs on an additional $29.8 billion of imports from the United States. This includes steel products worth $12.6 billion and aluminum products worth $3 billion, as well as additional imported U.S. goods worth $14.2 billion for a total of $29.8 billion. The list of additional products affected by counter tariffs includes computers, sports equipment, and cast iron products as examples. These tariffs are in addition to Canada's 25% counter tariffs on $30 billion of imports from the United States in response to U.S. tariffs put in place on March 4th.
Canadian officials are not mincing any words in their response to the Trump administration. Listen to this.
This is much more than about our economy. It is about the future of our country. Canadian sovereignty and identity are non-negotiable.
This needs to stop. This is hurtful for workers. This is hurtful for industry. This is hurtful for the competitiveness of North America. Canadian steel and aluminum are essential for North America.
The former U.S. ambassador to Canada and the former Michigan Governor James Blanchard is joining us right now here in the Situation Room. What's your reaction to what's going on? I mean, for me, as a kid growing up in Western New York, Buffalo, on the border with Canada, it's hard for me to believe that U.S.-Canadian relations are in a crisis like they are right now.
Yeah, it's really goofy stuff. It's totally unnecessary. Our relations with Canada today are the worst in modern history. It's not just tariffs. It's the constant insults by the White House, calling it the 51st state. It's the vice president saying that in the last few decades, Canada has treated us very badly. We've had this fabulous partnership and alliance all my life, and it's been seriously damaged these last month and a half, 2 months.
It's not just the tariffs, it's also the verbal statements. When you hear the president or the vice president refer to the Prime Minister of Canada, and you were the U.S. ambassador to Canada, as a governor, as if Canada is a 51st state, what do you think?
Well, it's an insult to Canada. Canadians find that as insulting as tariffs. The tariffs, of course, are totally unnecessary and are going to be inflationary and harmful. But yeah, I mean, to say a 51st state is like saying you don't count. You're an appendage to us. No, everything they're doing appears to be designed to destroy our fabulous relationship. I'm spending more time on Canadian television and radio telling the Canadians that the White House does not speak for 90% of Americans, that Canada is our most reliable, trusted, and best ally. It isn't just the economy and autos. I grew up in Detroit, or agriculture. It's cultural, it's relatives, it's tourism, it's everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
When you hear Trump say this isn't really a trade war that he's launched against Canada, it's a drug war that he's launched because of the illegal drugs pouring into the United States, he says, from Canada.
Yeah, fentanyl less than 1%. There probably are more drugs going north and guns going north. By the way, in terms of migrants, I think there are more people going north these days than south.
Consumer, which product specifically could be affected? I mean, all kinds of things, especially in the auto industry, where even if you have a domestic producer of auto parts, parts of those parts actually could be Canadian steel that would be then tariffed, and that adds to the cost of even something made in the U.S. So it's a very integrated manufacturing and production system we have between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. And steel and aluminum are the backbone for so many of these products. So just about everything. And in fact, for cars, you see forecasts from anywhere from $4,000 to $12,000 for the added to the price of a new car or truck because of the metal and the other tariffs that the president has been threatening. Now, they have carved out autos so far and say they're going to maybe put those back on in April, but not the metal that goes into the cars. So that's a really important place to watch here, even as the inflation numbers give a little bit of a sigh of relief for so many people today.
Yeah, and of course, metal products go into a whole host of other things
things that we use and we consume. I understand we got the latest inflation report this morning. Perhaps a little good news. What can you tell us about it? So a little lighter, as the economists would say, than expected. So inflation still higher than the Federal Reserve would like to see, still higher than normal, but 2.8% inflation growth year over year, and growing from January to February 0.2%. That was better than the so-called experts, as the president would say, were expecting. And in fact, half of that gain is because of shelter. We still have a housing crunch in this country, a housing affordability crunch, and you're seeing that still in those numbers. But certainly that is better, and moving finally in the right direction. So we got 1 month is not the whole trend, by the way, but we'll keep watching.
And I can't help but wonder, the tariff stuff we've been talking about hasn't really taken effect.
Those are not in those. This is rear view mirror. We know the future, though, very murky, because these costs, tariffs are surcharges at the border, and people who import pay that, and then they can pass some of that down to consumers.
And we are starting to see the ground level impacts of all this. The Kentucky bourbon industry, for example, struggling already because of Canadian reprisal. Craft brewing companies planning to incur thousands in higher costs for cans. But I want everyone to listen to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who says any potential economic pain will be worth it.
Will these policies be worth it if they lead to a recession, even a short-term recession?
These policies are the most important thing America has ever had.
So it is worth it.
It is worth it. It is not chaotic. And the only one who thinks it's chaotic is someone who's being silly.
It's like trying to say we aren't seeing what we're seeing with our own eyes, or hearing what we're hearing with our own eyes, or feeling what people are feeling. They say these are great, but we do know prices are going up in some areas. We know businesses are expressing worry about these tariffs. We know recession fears are growing. And so
Well, folks, if you thought international trade was just a bunch of boring numbers and handshakes, think again, because Canada just brought a hockey stick to this trade fight. After Trump's latest tariff blitz, Canada decided to fire back with a whopping 25% tariff on nearly $30 billion worth of American goods. And let's be honest, when Canada, the land of politeness and maple syrup, gets this mad, you know something serious is going down. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more updates that break it all down without the boring fluff. Now, Trump says this isn't a trade war. No, it's a drug war, because of illegal substances supposedly pouring in from Canada. Really? So we're putting tariffs on steel and aluminum because of fentanyl? That's like banning burgers because of a pizza shortage. Meanwhile, Canada's finance minister isn't messing around. She's going full dollar-for-dollar mode, slapping tariffs on everything from computers to sports equipment. That's right, folks. Your next American-made baseball bat just got a lot more expensive in Toronto. But this isn't just about money. It's about pride. Canadian officials are calling this an attack on their sovereignty. And honestly, they have a point. The US administration is acting like Canada is the 51st state, which, if you ask any Canadian, is about as offensive as putting ketchup on poutine. Former Michigan Governor James Blanchard is out here saying US-Canada relations are at their worst in modern history. Let that sink in. We've had our spats before, but this is a full-blown international cold shoulder. And let's talk about the economic impact, because this isn't just bad for Canada, it's bad for us too. The US and Canada have an insanely interconnected economy. We share manufacturing, tourism, agriculture, and even energy. You know that warm air keeping homes in Detroit cozy in the winter? Yeah, that's Canadian natural gas. This tariff war is like trying to punch your own reflection. It's just going to hurt both sides. But sure, let's pretend we're winning while paying more for goods. Then there's the cultural impact. This isn't just business, it's family drama. People cross that border every day for work, for school, to visit relatives. And now we're telling our closest ally that they're basically freeloaders who need to be